Good afternoon, everybody. I am Leo Nimzik, Assistant Chief, Port St. Lucie Police Department. After a multi-agency investigation, I'm pleased to announce the arrest of 59-year-old George Galiszewski, owner of Pro Pool Builders, for defrauding 104 victims on the Treasure Coast out of more than $2.5 million. I'm joined today by local law enforcement partners who worked together on the investigation. Ultimately, to arrest Galiszewski, I'd like to introduce Port St. Lucie Police Department Lead Detective Courtney Druga, Detective Sergeant Aaron Martin from Martin County, Captain Ruben Romero, and Detective Sergeant Brad Spencer from the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office, Captain Troy Norman, and Detective Mitchell Mazanowski. From the Indian River County Sheriff's Department, I'd like to introduce Captain Joseph Abalo, and from the Stewart Police Department, Captain Zenilovic. From February 2021 to April of 22, Pro Builders collected over $2.5 million in deposits from victims across the Treasure Coast, only completing 3 pools during this time. Galiszewski closed the business in April of 22, leaving behind 104 victims, either partial construction or no construction at all. In addition, Galiszewski failed to pay $221,000 owed to subcontractors. The criminal investigation began in April of 22 after numerous homeowners contacted authorities to report allegations of fraud against Pro Pool Builders. Detectives identified 64 victims in Port St. Lucie, 29 in Martin County, 6 in St. Lucie County, 4 in Indian River County, and 1 in Stewart. After a thorough and complex investigation, detectives obtained an arrest warrant for Galiszewski, and he was apprehended earlier this week on 5 felonies to include RICO, money laundering, misapplication of construction funds, first-degree grand theft, and aggravated white-collar crime. He's currently being held at St. Lucie County Jail on a $2.5 million bond, which is quite appropriate. Well, I'll be willing to answer questions afterwards, but at this time I'd like to introduce Captain Ruben Romero from the Martin County Sheriff's Department.
Chief. We just wanted to thank the Port St. Lucie Police Department and really the public of the Treasure Coast, who was very diligent in notifying law enforcement almost immediately upon noticing that there was something wrong. We worked very closely with the State Attorney's Office, statewide prosecutor, to get this case to a close. We really got to thank Port St. Lucie for taking the brunt of it. Detective Druga did a fantastic job working with all our other detectives, and it was a pleasure. And this is what happens when all law enforcement works together and we work across county lines. Like they say at the Sheriff's Office, it's one team, one fight, and this really exemplifies that for us. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce to you Captain Troy Norman with the St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office.
Kind of to echo what Captain Romero said, this was a great collaborative effort with all the agencies, including the State Attorney's Office involved. We kind of want to take a moment to notify our communities that when they're hiring contractors, builders, whatever they're doing, they need to do their homework. They don't need to just pick the cheapest person. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. They need to Google their contractor. They need to try the Better Business Bureau, and a simple Google search will go a long ways before they sign any type of paperwork or pay any money up front. And once again, we'd like to thank the Port St. Lucie Police Department for spearheading all of this. Thank you.
Okay, at this time I'd like to invite Captain Zenilovic from Stewart Police Department.
Yes, thank you, Chief. I just want, again, I'll echo the sentiments of my colleagues. What I want to say is, from a small town perspective, little Stewart PD, the city of Stewart, we take every case seriously. Our detectives work cooperatively with the agencies affected with much higher numbers of these incidents, but $2.5 million worth of crime, the portability of this scam went 3-4 counties. So it's important to us. Thank you. Great job on the arrest and indictment on that. Thanks.
And Captain Joseph Abalo, please. Indian River County Sheriff's Office.
Good afternoon, everybody. So again, echoing a lot of stuff here, right? So if you look to your left and to my right, we have a lot of organizations, a lot of agencies here working together. So a lot of this stuff doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen with one agency doing one thing. So, you see a lot of rank up here, but really it's the detectives that you see over here that are doing all the job. And the patrol officers and the deputies that put all this thing together. So without them, we wouldn't have the investigation. So we're fortunate we only have 4 victims in Indian River County, but Port St. Lucie, PD, you guys did great, phenomenal. So worked well close with our detectives. And again, when crime like this comes in our area, beware, because we're going to come after you guys. Thank you.
With that, any questions? Yes.
Yeah, one question. If you could kind of walk through exactly how this person left the job. I mean, did he start and then leave a gaping hole in the ground? Did he never actually start the job at all, just take the contract?
So it's a mix of both. About 50% of those were jobs partially conducted. Several victims were left with great big holes in their yards right beside their home. In some cases, foundations were threatened, and the homeowner was left with a much bigger problem than just a hole in the ground. And then several of the victims were left with no work whatsoever.
Do you think that this gentleman intended to go into business as a pool contractor and act appropriately, I suppose, and then things got away from him or something like that, or do you think he was...
Well, he's a con man. He was in it for money, and he didn't care about the victims.
Did he say anything, apologize, acknowledge what he did, anything?
He took the victims' money and ran to Costa Rica and the most expensive restaurants on the Treasure Coast. I don't think he was very remorseful.
How much money did he get from all the victims if he had to total it?
About $2.5 million.
So would you say that he used the money to fund like a lavish lifestyle?
Absolutely. Absolutely. He had an appetite for expensive restaurants, dating websites, you name it, fishing gear. It was all personal use.
Did he have any experience in pool building or contracting prior to this?
He had very little pool experience. He had worked as a tech, doing some repairs for a little while, but by no means was he qualified to be a pool contractor.
What did he do to finally get him behind bars?
Well, when you start taking people's money and not providing any services, they call the police rather quickly. So it was really that simple. We started realizing that we were getting numerous complaints and then started speaking to our partners at our local neighboring jurisdictions and found that they were seeing the same thing. So we just all put our heads together and got with the state attorney's office and built the case against him.
He's kind of bold. He didn't leave town. He just kind of hung out there and waited for you to come and get him.
Yeah, I don't know what his options were, but yeah, absolutely.
So did he open this? When did he open the company? I guess in 2021,
That's correct.
and it closed down about a year later.
About 14-month tenure, yes.
I know that there's quite a bit of civil litigation involving pro pools, and there's other people named. Did somebody else kind of like take over the company for him or after him, or?
Well, he's a convicted felon to begin with, so he was unable to obtain a license for a pool contracting business, so he used people. He's a con man, so he got somebody to go on paper to be his owner and name, and then he got another person with a contractor's license to hang his license on the business name, and so he drug other people in it with him.
Do you anticipate other arrests in this case, or do you think that Mr. Galiszewski is kind of like?
I can't really speak to that because it's still ongoing in that regard.
Any chance of the victims getting any of their money back?
I believe most of it is gone.
Can you walk us through what his prior felony charges were, or convictions rather?
I don't have them in front of me. I understand they were mostly drug related and traffic.
What were the red flags that maybe some of the homeowners miss?
Well, for instance, he wasn't in business very long, so you're hiring a contractor who's got under 18 months in the business, only completed 3 pools and all of that, so he couldn't have had many referrals or references, didn't have any history with the Better Business Bureau. His quotes were quite a bit under market value, so I think there were plenty of red flags. Just you have to do your due diligence, and it's a shame, but he took advantage of people, and he's good at it, and he's a con man. So
I know all these agencies from across the Treasure Coast are here. We're talking about cases in all 3 counties, but he's in the St. Lucie County Jail. Just so I'm clear, these 5 charges that Mr. Galiszewski is facing represent the totality of all the cases in Martin, St. Lucie?
that's correct. They'll be combined for prosecution.
Okay.
And one of the victims mentioned that he had saw George here talking with somebody else about starting a gunite company to fill the cement and pools
Yeah.
because he didn't actually have the ability to do it himself? Was that something that was found in the investigation?
Well, it's not unusual to subcontract work when you're a contractor, right? So he was subcontracting gunite providers, but they charge a little bit more than he wanted to pay, so he wanted to have his own company so he didn't have to pay subcontractor rates. So he began starting that, but then when he didn't pay the people that he brought on board to do that, it didn't last very long.
Oh, one last question. When it says his doors closed on April 15th, 2022, is that because he left town, or is that because he got a building license revoked?
Because he knew we were onto him. It was time to cut bait and run. Anything further? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Cool.